If you ask a fan out of the blue to name the worst crash they've ever seen in Formula 1, they'll probably tell you about the insane accident at the start of the 2020 Bahrain Grand Prix, in which Romain Grosjean was launched into the barriers in a fiery explosion and miraculously survived. They may even reference the accident that took the life of Ayrton Senna at Imola in 1994, or even the infamous 1976 German Grand Prix crash at the Nordschleife that severely injured and permanently scarred three-time world champion Niki Lauda. Now, in the discourse on crashes though, there is one that constantly flies under the radar, and it's the subject of today's video. The year was 2005, the track was Paul Ricard, the car was a McLaren, and the driver was Alexander Wurz. Now, to find out why all of this came together into a huge accident, let's take a short trip back to the past. Right, so this is Alex Wurz. He currently serves as the chairman of the Grand Prix Drivers Association. But back in his heyday, he too was a Formula 1 driver. In 1997, he was a test driver for Benetton, a year after becoming the youngest winner in the history of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. When Gerhard Berger got sick mid-season, Benetton drafted in Wurz to fill in for 3 races, and he scored a brilliant P3 in his last race that year at Silverstone. This earned him a full-time seat with the team for the next 3 years. However, Wurz wanted more. Benetton was a midfield team, and he wanted an opportunity to fight for wins and championships, and his plan to do this was to join McLaren in a testing role. He believed that through this, he would eventually get promoted to a race seat. So Wurz's new day job was testing McLarens built by one Adrian Newey. But how did Adrian Newey get to McLaren? Well, in his earlier career, Newey floated around a bunch of midfield teams until 1990, when he got his big break. He was approached by Williams and joined the team in 1991. From 1991 to 1996, Newey built some absolute banger vehicles, including the FW14B, the car Nigel Mansell used to become the 1992 Formula 1 World Champion. The evolution of the car, the FW15C, would be used by Alain Prost to capture his 4th and final World Championship. However, while at Williams, Newey wanted more. He didn't want to just design cars, he wanted to have a say in how the team was run and which drivers Williams signed. But it became evident to Newey that this wasn't going to happen, at least not at Williams. So despite the on-track success, Newey wanted more, so he decided to join McLaren as their technical director. He joined the team mid-1997 and immediately focused his attention to making sure the 1998 car was top tier. And it was. For the next 2 years, Mika Hakkinen would pilot cars built by Newey to 2 straight Formula 1 World Championships. But what does any of this have to do with the Paul Ricard test? Well, let me try and bring everything into one. So, Alex Wurz was testing the MP417 at Paul Ricard. Now this was just another day in the life of a McLaren test driver, but it's a miracle Wurz is even still doing this job after the shenanigans of the MP418. Intern, what's the MP418? Well, loyal viewer, the MP418 was a car concept whipped up by the great Adrian Newey in an attempt to win the 2003 Formula 1 World Championship. You see, McLaren won the first 2 races of that year, but they did it with the same car they used in 2002. As time passed, Ferrari would eventually bring their new 2003 car to the grid at Spain that year, and Schumacher cooked everyone, so McLaren knew immediately that it was crunch time. They needed a new car, and Newey got to work making the MP418, and when it touched ground for testing, it was a mess. It kept blowing up, catching fire, and was super unstable to drive. Wurz actually refused to get back into the car after a crash he had during testing that the team decided to blame on him and not the car itself.
And then very quickly we started to see a lot of faults and things kept breaking and we had big accidents with this car. No race driver wanted to test it anymore. And it came to one point, my only time in my racing career where I refused to drive a car, and that was the last lap of that 18 car.
But over time, Newey perfected the design, and Wurz was comfortable driving his cars again. So fast forward to 2005. We're at Paul Ricard, and Wurz is taking the McLaren around the track gathering data. Setting lap records was an everyday thing for good old Alex, and he was poised to improve on a record he set earlier that day. He did his prep lap and then sent it into turn 1. Anyways, what Wurz didn't know upon sending it was that his right rear tire was fitted incorrectly. You see, F1 tires are directional, meaning you have to fit them onto the car a certain way in order for them to work properly. His crew did 3/4 of the job properly, but that right rear was the one they missed. Oh wow, intern, the poor sap who did that must suck at their job, huh? Not actually, no, they actually breathed. You see, Michelin, which is McLaren's tire supplier back then, changed the position of stickers that the crew use as reference points to fit the tires correctly. The directional sticker that a crew member would look at to know how to fit the car on fell off, so the poor mechanic was hopeless and just fitted the tire on with crossed fingers. Because of this, when Alex went into the first proper right-hander on the circuit, the tire acknowledged immediately that the stage was too big and the lights were too bright and instead chose to bail. This sent Alex into the nearest wall at a ridiculous 300 kilometers per hour or 186 miles an hour if you're a Yank, setting the record for the fastest speed ever recorded in a Formula 1 impact even to this day. Much to the shock of humanity, Alex came out of the car unscathed. Not even a bruise thanks to the specific angle in which he made contact, which was rear first. The damage racked up a bill of nearly £400,000 according to an article by The Guardian. Alex was actually heartwarmed by the fact that Michelin took responsibility for the accident, going as far as to visit him at his home to meet with him and explain the situation while promising to never let it happen again.
I have to say, the director of Michelin understood it was his mistake, a mounting mistake, which can happen. They didn't like it that it happened. They flew to my home, came for a meeting, they apologized for it, they paid all the crash, and they showed us the system they will put in place that this will not happen in the future. And, you know, it's like, how cool is that? That someone admits a mistake and tells you the process will be updated and changed. And this is what I learned in motor racing, that people take the safety extremely serious, and look, to crash with over 300 kilometers an hour and you walk away uninjured is sensational. So I was never really afraid in a race car, and also this accident didn't change the driving or the risk taking you have to do in racing.
This crash actually happened just a month after Alex delivered McLaren a podium at Imola, subbing for an injured Juan Pablo Montoya. It was his first race since 2000, and internal disputes between him and Ron Dennis saw Alex finally make the jump and leave McLaren for Williams for 2006, and it was this team he'd actually score his last podium in Formula 1 with at the 2007 Canadian Grand Prix, the very same race Lewis Hamilton won the first of his over 100 Grand Prix victories. But anyways, yeah, that's the story of the fastest crash in Formula 1 history, sprinkled with snippets of the career of Alex Wurz over the surface. Hope you enjoyed. As always, my name is Intern, I talk wheel, and thanks for watching.